on the border of the pad and the grass. I stopped in my tracks because unless a cow got out there, shouldn't be anything around. I listened for about 15 seconds to see if I could hear anything, and nothing. So I continued walking, and when I got close to the generator, I heard more rustling just beyond the generator. I walked up to the fence line and shined my light, looking for eye reflections, and couldn't see anything. That's when I heard the gravel behind me shuffle around. I spun around as quickly as I could, ready to use my maglite as a weapon because I am not going down without a fight. It was a coyote about 15 feet behind me, staring at me, and I just stared at it. Neither of us moved, and I knew I should be able to scare it off easily because of my size and how loud I am. Then I heard some noises behind me, and I spun around again. There were 5 more coyotes on my side of the little cow fence. I knew then they were going to circle me and try to take me down. I kicked the gravel at them as quickly as I could, spun back around, ran a few feet towards the single coyote and tried to kick rocks at that one, and accidentally flung my boot off, and a 1 in a million shot actually hit it. I slipped and hit the ground. I got up as quickly as I could and pointed the light around, and couldn't see any of the coyotes. I hobbled over to my boot and then tried to run back to my truck. I jumped in, flipped the headlights on, and there were all 6 coyotes just standing there, staring at me. I laid on the horn and floored it with the intention of trying to run them over. I missed, and they ended up jumping through the fence, taking off into the field. I ended up parking directly next to the generator, found that it ran out of gas. I filled the generator up, got it started again, and finished doing my work. I could hear the coyotes howling and making all their noises in the field for a couple more hours. Those damn coyotes stalked me 3 or 4 nights a week for the next 3 weeks I was out there. They never did cross the cow fence again. This happened to me during my junior year of college. For context, I am a 22-year-old female. I was driving from my hometown in the Chicago suburbs to University of Missouri, which is about a 6-hour drive. I made the drive about every 4 to 6 weeks to see my family and my long-distance boyfriend. There are 2 main ways to take to the town my university is in. Stay on the interstate system through central Illinois and St. Louis, or branch out to back roads after Springfield, Illinois, until picking the interstate back up about 30 minutes from my college. I usually take the back roads, simply because it kept me awake with the constant speed limit changes in occasional towns. But this particular time, I took the interstate system because there was a high potential for winter weather. I was minding my own business, listening to one true crime podcast episode after another, when about an hour from my exit, traffic came to a standstill. Great, I thought. It was already way beyond dark at that point. It was also a Sunday night, and I just wanted to get home and catch a decent night's sleep before my Monday classes. After a while, emergency vehicles flew past the traffic on the shoulder, indicating that there must be an accident up ahead. After what felt like forever, traffic slowly started crawling again, and eventually started moving a little as we all passed the accident. This is when it started. I will admit, I like to drive fast on the interstate, especially on this particular drive. What college kid doesn't? I was in the right lane with a decent amount of space between me and the car in front of me. That is when I noticed someone right on my bumper. Seriously? I muttered aloud. Traffic was no longer super heavy, and the person could easily pass me in the left lane. Suddenly, the car began flashing their brights at me and honking. I was extremely confused. I turned off my podcast and kept a close eye on my rear view. The person continued to flash their brights, half blinding me in the darkness through my mirrors. Jerk, I said, flooring it into the left lane. I maneuvered in and out of a few cars, attempting to get away from whatever issue this person had. except they followed my every move. Being a 21-year-old female, I began to get a sick feeling in my stomach. I had listened to enough true crime and general horror stories to be just the right amount of paranoid. The car continued to follow me, flashing its lights and barely letting themselves ever get more than a few cars behind, or behind and beside me. I finally took the exit to my university. I looked back and the car had followed. It seemed as though the person was trying to get me to pull over. Is there something wrong with my car that I can't see? I wondered silently. Even if there was no way I was pulling over on the side of an interstate in the middle of a dark, rainy night. That is exactly how urban legends or teenage slasher movies start. At this point, I had no idea what to do. Looking back, I really should have driven straight to the local police station, but I was too flustered and scared to think straight. I tried to think back on the last hour or so of my drive. Did I cut anyone off? I didn't think so. I didn't think I had done anything to make any drivers around me this upset. I am a relatively good driver and tend to mind my own business on the road, not engaging in road rage or anything stupid like that. I stupidly began driving to my apartment. The car continued to follow, still flashing their lights every so often, but no longer honking. They continued to stay glued to my bumper. I began to panic. What if they followed me all the way home? What should I do? Call the police and send them on a wild goose chase to look for me in this car as I'm driving around town? As I approached another small exit off the local highway, onto a smaller street that ran past campus and toward my apartment, I had an idea. As I got closer to the exit, I did not get into the far right lane to turn off. At the very last second, I jerked the wheel and careened across the gravel shoulder so close to the grass that I barely missed driving off the road. As I gunned it down the exit ramp, I glanced up at the overpass. The car had screeched to a halt and was honking its horn maniacally. I cried the rest of the way home, calling my boyfriend and explaining what had just happened. I never got a good enough look at the car to get a license plate number, or really even a good description of the vehicle, so I never reported the incident to police. To this day, I have no idea what exactly it was that happened that night. My best guess is that whoever this person was, they saw me when we were all stopped on the interstate, waiting for the emergency vehicles to clear the scene. It's very clear from the stickers I have on my car, one of my university's name and one that said Dog Mom, that I was likely a college-aged female. All this person had to do was end up next to me, see that I was a female driving alone on the interstate in the middle of the night, and have just the wrong intentions. I live in the country and usually love it. I'm a big Pokemon fan and have been for a long time. Last summer I was playing a lot of Pokemon Go. For those who don't know what that is, it is a mobile game that requires you to walk in the real world to catch Pokemon. Post offices and town offices are usually places where you can get new items. Well, I had been busy one day and didn't get a chance to get out and play. It was dark before I had a chance. I decided to go ahead and go for a little walk. It is about a mile round trip to the post office. I've done it before and felt pretty safe about doing it again. It's a very safe neighborhood. I grabbed my phone and headed out. It's a heavily wooded area with a few houses and fields. I had just passed a neighbor's house when I heard it. There was a shuffling in the woods near me. I quickly got on the other side of the street. Deer are pretty common here, and I didn't want one to jump out and run into me. I expected a deer to run out and cross the road, but none came, and the noise got louder. I raised my phone up to see if I could use the light to see what it was. The light was far too weak to light anything up. I started walking quicker. I thought it would just go away. I reached my neighbor's house that has rather overgrown fields. I could see the tops of the grass move as whatever or whoever it was moved through it, but I still couldn't see who or what it was. Whatever it was stopped making noise. I reached the post office and checked into my game. Playing helped me relax, and I forgot about what had scared me. Then, I turned and headed home. As I passed my neighbor's house with the long grass, I heard the movement again. It had waited there for me. Mind you, I was at the post office like 20 minutes because I had a lot to do on my game. As I walked along, I kept my eyes on my feet and didn't dare look into the woods. It was clear whatever was there wasn't going to hurt me. It would have done so already. I didn't want to risk seeing it. I was terrified. I could hear it crashing around in the woods. I thought about calling my husband to come get me, but part of me was scared of making a noise. What if my silence was the only thing that had kept this thing from attacking me? Finally, I reached a neighbor's house that had a big open yard. Whatever or whoever was following me stopped making noise. It seemed like they were going away. I quickly rushed the short distance home and was shaking. I don't know what it was that followed me, and part of me doesn't want to ever know. My husband thinks it was just a curious bear or coyote. That doesn't really make me feel any better. About 15 years ago, when I was 22-ish, my best girl and I went out to the bars 3 to 4 plus nights a week, and generally met some interesting people and made new friends. There were a few bars that we hit up more than others, and one in particular where we knew the bartender manager pretty well. We went the week of Halloween, and each night, their staff would dress up in a different costume. This is where we came across Ron. He was bouncing at this bar, and didn't even catch my eye in the slightest, as I gave